please.
Mayor Sui.
Present.
Mr. DeLeo is absent. Mr. Donahue.
Here.
Mr. O'Day is absent. Mr. Smith is absent. Mr. Sullivan.
Here.
Ms. Romero.
Here.
Notice of this meeting was provided to the Bernardsville News, Courier News, Star Ledger, filed with the municipal clerk and posted on the municipal bulletin board on December 12, 2017. Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point in the meeting, the mayor and council welcome comments from any member of the public. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and permit the opportunity for anyone who wishes to be heard, speakers shall limit their comments to 5 minutes. If reading from a prepared statement, please provide a copy and email a copy to the clerk's office after making your comments, so it may be properly reflected in the minutes. Anyone from the public? Sir, do you have anything? Did you have anything to say?
Just so I understand, so I have some comments on the Claremont Road.
Yes.
Is that
We're,
now?
no, we're going to go through a whole
Okay. All right.
ordinance for that. Yes, thank you. Yes, sir.
I have questions on the articles in the paper regarding multifamily. Is that going to be discussed on the agenda?
You could discuss that now if you want to.
Okay.
Just state your name for the record.
My name is Hank Barry.
Thank you.
My name is Hank Barry. I live at 165 South Maple in Basking Ridge.
Yes, sir.
I own a property at 47 Anderson Road, which is a two-family.
Okay.
I've owned it for more than 40 years. And at no time has anybody ever said to me that it was in any way not conforming. I get a tax bill every year that says it's a two-family. I get billed by the sewer people as a two-family. And now I read in the paper that I'm subject to fines, lawsuits, and so forth. And I'm wondering what's going on and what the impetus for this is.
Okay. John, you had a question on that last meeting, correct?
Well, just, I guess what the zoning said, depends what your zone is in, I guess. There's certain dates.
I checked it today, and I'm told that virtually all of the multifamily properties on Anderson Road are in a single-family zone.
The R4, the R5? Because
I have no idea, but I checked with Jackie today, and she said, yes, you and most other homeowners in that area are, I guess, technically in violation.
Jack.
The council has not decided to do anything at this point in time. So it's hard to answer your question because the council really hasn't.
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm quoting Mr. Price and members of this council who are saying that these homeowners may be subject to fines, may be subject to lawsuits, and so forth. And I don't understand what the impetus for this is and what the goal of this is. I've conformed in every possible way for 40 years. And I don't have a CO. You don't issue COs in Bernardsville.
Do you have a...
No, I don't have anything that predates my ownership in 1978. I might be able to find the owner that owned it before me, but that would be 6 years after the ordinance. I bought it in 1978.
You could do another request from the town and ask to see what the construction file is.
Well, what will the construction file tell me? I made improvements, it was inspected, the town approved it.
Single family or a two-family?
The construction. The house is about 100 years old.
So at some point it went from a single family to a two-family?
I assumed it did before I owned
Yeah,
it.
you bought it like that, correct?
I bought it as a two-family from a Bernardsville police officer, in fact. And I have, as I said, received my tax bills, I've had my inspections, I've done everything the town has asked, and I'm wondering not so much what my options are, I can figure that out, but I'm wondering what the impetus for enforcing, let me ask a question. Does this council intend to have any dialogue with multifamily owners who are very often characterized as not good people in this town.
Anything from housing?
I'm wondering if there's any thought to having a dialogue with owners
Well, I
regarding
think we're
this.
just starting that process right now, and I think the idea is we want to bring some zoning consistency, because we have zoning, this is one thing, and we've got numerous houses that are just not compliant with the zoning. So, I mean, for people who do buy single-family houses in a zone, you don't want to know that, you know, the next door neighbor may turn their house into a multifamily, which
I
is
understand
not
that.
permitted. So that's the balance we got to strike. I mean, because right now there's an existing issue, and also going forward, we got to make sure there's consistent enforcement.
Well, I understand going forward, but again, I've been a good owner for more than 40 years, and I don't understand why there are threats of lawsuits and fines.
You're going down a road that hasn't even been paved yet. I mean, we haven't gotten that far yet, where there's a lawsuit, someone's in.
Well, town officials are quoted in the paper as saying we may ultimately be subject to lawsuits and daily fines.
In the event that you have I mean, look, to get to that level, you'd have to have a non-compliant use, and also continue to violate a written notice. And in the event you elect to continue to operate,
So you're telling me all multifamily owners in that single-family zone must do away with multifamily?
No, provide the town with evidence.
And if you can't provide evidence that
There's other-
50 years ago somebody converted it to a, what then become your options?
Board of Adjustments,
All right. And if they say no, then
convert back to single family, yes.
I hear you. I don't like what you're saying. I think it probably subjects this town to multiple lawsuits, but that's a different issue. So all I'm suggesting is that somebody should establish a dialogue with those homeowners who are affected. I understand the letter's going out, and it's going to say what you said to me. You know, you're in violation, and here's your rights of appeal. And if your appeal is denied for whatever reason, if somebody says, well, that's the ordinance, 1971, that's the ordinance, you have to convert back to a single-family home, then, you know, it's subject to arbitrary...
No, it's not, because then you go to Superior Court and they would overturn it.
Well, I hope it's not necessary. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public? Yes, ma'am. Could you come up, state your name? Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. I'm the face of 56 Mary Road. It's been in the paper over and over again, and I was very disappointed by the tone of the articles, and maybe that's the Bernardsville News, but by the way it's been presented. This house has only had two owners, Mr. Dobbs for the first 40 in 1909 to 1959, and then the McCarthy family from 1960 to the present. So for the past 60 years, we've had this home, and when we moved in, it had an apartment upstairs. Actually, the sink says 1943, and I'm not here to in any way present my case. I'm already spending $12,000 to go to the Board of Adjusters for the first shot. What happened to us is it was on the market for 4 years as a single family and a multifamily. Our realtor, our second realtor, who's been much more successful, Mr. Carey, actually looked into the zoning board and said, you know, you have a problem here, and referred us out. So we're taking those steps. It's a very, very expensive process. But because we're selling the house, you'd have to be either crazy or stupid not to follow that process.
Yeah, you really have to, yeah.
Sued. Well, we weren't, you know, this house has had multiple tenants for many, many years. It's a 100-year-old house, and for 60 years it's been multi-use.
Yes.
Our tax bills, everything else has been the same. So I just want you to see I'm a nurse. I've lived in this town for many, many years. I don't live there right now. It went from my father who died to my sister in 2012 who died of ALS. And no, I didn't think of asking her about the zoning board
Of
as
course
she was
not, yes.
passing away. And my nephew, it's in a trust for him, and he's inherited it. It's not $1 million trust. The only thing in the trust is the house. So when you get opinions about things, I just want to set the record straight that since 1971, there have been tenants, 3 tenants in that house. And we thought we were conforming to multifamily state, the town, the tax assessor, and everything. And it's very difficult now, 60 years later, to the gentleman's point. Most of the people who would know anything about this are long gone.
Sure.
Are long gone. So we're scrapping whatever we can to pull together for the Board of Adjustment, but I think it's a huge financial problem for people who own two or 3 families, and the town has looked the other way for many years to put everything on the owner's shoulders. I'm doing it, but you know, I think it's somewhat unfair. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll close the open session, move to presentations. Item 5A, Open Space Committee. Mr. Mary, you have something?
Yeah, so on the table, if anyone would like a copy, there's an open space recommendation presentation that I, as the liaison to the Open Space Committee, would like to just go through with everyone here tonight and everyone watching on our YouTube. So the first slide talks about our open space plan, and oh, here, take mine.
Well, you don't need it?
No, I have it on.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So the first slide talks about the open space plan, which is a full document that can be found on our website. So if you want to read the full document, what we did for tonight was just to kind of point out the main goals of the open space committee and the open space fund that the town has. And the first bullet point talks about promoting the permanent conservation of the borough's land, preserving the integrity of the environmental resources, providing opportunities for recreational facilities that meet the needs of residents, protect the ecological integrity of the borough's landscape, and support the protection of greenways and blueways to expand contiguous open lands. So on the next slide, which is one of the items on our agenda tonight, is a particular property which the borough is trying to purchase. It is 251 Claremont Road.
Anthony, are you making? Yeah.
251 Claremont Road. So there are some photos of the property in the presentation. It's a 5-acre piece of land. On the next slide, we pointed out some of the benefits, which there are 5. It's a 5-acre property, and it connects to 30 acres of existing borough-owned space, which is known as the Peters Tract. So the Peters Tract is a donated parcel from back in the 60s that at the current time is in a preserved state. It's not being utilized per se as a park because of the fact that it doesn't have a way in for the public. The second benefit of purchasing the property is that there are minimal infrastructure upgrades required. In other words, this property will provide a great access without having to do a lot of work to the Peters Tract. The third benefit, it opens up an underutilized property. So we would like to, allow the access to a property that is beautiful and large, and we still are conserving it, but we want it to be accessible to all. And that's the fifth benefit, accessible to all residents. So the ordinance on the agenda tonight, it authorizes funding for the purchase of this property. And the last slide talks about the process. So although it seems like it's kind of a hidden thing sometimes to people, we wanted to make sure that everyone understands the way that these types of purchases need to be handled. So the first bullet point says, prior to purchase, Green Acres required appraisals will be made. So the open space plan is very thorough, and it talks about the fact that if we do acquire open space, there's a fund, the Green Acres, it's a statewide fund that will reimburse up to half of what we pay. And it's not as simple as that, but basically, in order to obtain that funding from Green Acres, we need to do the proper appraisals. So it's all laid out in Green Acres law. And then the second bullet talks about once the property is acquired, the Open Space Committee, when we discussed this, we made sure to talk about the fact that residents will definitely be invited to participate in property tours by the Land Conservancy. I think some presentations say conservatory, but it's actually the Land Conservancy, and that's who the borough uses for our open space acquisitions. And then the last point talks about residents being invited to attend open space meetings dedicated to property uses. So the Open Space Committee currently meets monthly, and the meetings are open to the public, and they are on the borough website on the calendar. So if anyone is interested in attending those, they're always open to the public. And that's it.
Ms. McFadden, you have anything from open space, or?
I would love to see the authorization for the money to be put aside. This is just to see if we can actually acquire it.
Okay.
It's 5 acres that would give us access to 33 acres that has been on the books for 45 years that
Yes.
we've never been able to use.
Mm-hmm.
56.
There you go.
56 years we've never been able to use. Thank you.
Okay.
Math was not mine.
So you would like to see us appropriate the
I
monies?
would love to see the money appropriated.
Okay.
And the
And,
whole committee voted to have the money appropriated.
okay, and you postpone the vote for this evening, or to purchase, or move on with the purchase, or Mr. Graham, you have anything? I know, I read your email thoroughly a couple times, so.
Actually open the public hearing on the ordinance.
Okay, very good, okay.
That's okay with you.
That's fine with me, I just didn't want to, yes. Okay, very good. Okay, so we'll move on, I'll open up the public hearing, and then we'll discuss the matter for, thank you. Anything else, Christine?
No.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to items of business, ordinances. There we go. I'd open the public hearing from October 22nd on ordinance 1782 concerning signs and amending Chapter 12 of the Borough Code entitled Zoning of the Borough Land Development Code. Anyone, public, want to be heard on the matter? Council? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Accept the motion to pass on final reading and adopt as published.
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. Mara,
Second.
second by Mr. Sullivan. Roll call, please.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Ms. Amer?
Yes.
All right, Mayor, to continue public hearing from October 22nd on ordinance 1783 concerning uses permitted in the industrial district and amending Chapter 12 of the Borough Code Land Development Code entitled Zoning. Public hearing? Yes, Mr. Simon. How are you? Sure.
It's a question to ask.
We know who you are, but just identify yourself.
Good evening. Always good to be here. Rob Simon from Herald Law here on behalf of Lakeview Industrial Park Property Owners Association, Inc., and Viola Properties, Inc., properties in Bernardsville. I believe I've submitted prior correspondence identifying where those properties are. I'm here, of course, in support of this proposed ordinance, and I'm here particularly to thank the mayor and council for taking the time to consider our concerns on behalf of local businesses so that we can continue to operate and to thrive, and also in consideration of the surrounding area, residences, businesses, and otherwise. So we thank you for this opportunity, and we are in support of the ordinance. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Council members? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Motion to pass on final reading and adopt as published.
I'm abstaining because I'm conflicted on this.
Okay, it's not gonna,
So I can't pass it.
not gonna go then. Yeah,
Got to carry.
you're gonna have to carry it. So you're not gonna do it.
Why is that?
We need 3 votes to pass an ordinance.
I know we need, is there a
I'm conflicted.
He's conflicted.
Mike's conflicted.
Yeah.
So when's the carry date?
December 10th. I'm sorry,
No,
November 26th. I'm sorry.
November 26th. Monday after Thanksgiving.
All right,
So I would ask for a motion to continue the public hearing on the ordinance until the November 26th hearing with no further notice of publication.
all right. I'll entertain a
And
motion.
obviously, there's
Yes,
there's total agreement that would also remain.
that's correct. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Mr. Mara,
Second.
second by Mr. Donahue. Mr. Sullivan's gonna recuse himself.
So just the two of them can vote to pass it.
All right, very good.
All in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor?
Hey, wasn't trying to steal anything.
Okay. I entertain a motion to move to amend ordinance 1784, an ordinance prohibiting dogs and other pets on certain borough athletic fields, and supplementing and amending chapter 5 of the Borough Code entitled Animal Control, and continue the public hearing on ordinance as amended to November 26, 2018. So, somebody move it?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Donahue. Second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Sullivan. Roll call, please, Anthony.
Mrs. Mara?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
All right, Mayor, to open a public hearing on ordinance 1786, appropriating $950,000 from the Borough Open Space Trust Fund for the purchase of 251 Claremont Road. Anyone from the public wishing to be heard? Mr. Graham. How you doing, Bob?
All right.
All right.
Bob Graham, 84-3 Dryden Road, Bernardsville. I'm in favor of trying to leverage Peter's Tract. I think it's a noble effort, and I was surprised to see that the method was to consider acquisition of 251 Claremont. I drive by it every day, and the obvious acquisition should be 261 Claremont, which is the open field with the small ranch house on it that's not characteristic of the neighborhood, and which, and even if it's encumbered, I believe that property should be pursued rather than taking this property, which is perfectly suitable as a mountain home, and acquiring it. There are a lot of reasons to acquire 261 instead of 251, and why it's more suitable than this particular tract that's being suggested. The acquisition of this property will landlock that lot also, the 261 lot, make it even less desirable for resale. It's a larger piece of property, 261. It's open. The front of it's on the road is all open, unlike the other properties that are on Claremont.
Yep.
And it's been essentially uninhabited for a long period, partially inhabited but uninhabited, so there's nobody there. But it's out of state ownership, trust, I believe. And it would be, it just doesn't have a lot of the complications that 261 does, 251 does. 261 is better choice. It's on the inventory. We wanted to acquire it. I feel that it would be wasting the funds to acquire 251.
Okay.
Bob, excuse me, aren't there logistical engineering problems with the one that you're proposing, like steep slopes?
Nope.
Wetlands?
Wetlands, but there's a small section of wetlands. Okay, it depends on how much you want to try to develop. 251 is forested. You'd have to take the forest down if you wanted to develop something, which we don't really want to do. 261 is unforested for at least half the lot. It's larger. It's adjacent to 277, which is Peter's Tract. There are a number of excellent reasons why that property was essentially a target for open space and should continue to be the target. If it's a matter of wetlands, you appeal to the purpose of the wetlands in that region is for a freshwater preservation. It's not for anything else, essentially. You just figure out, you just work with the DEP, you decide how you're going to at least make it equivalent or better freshwater preservation, and you go for an LOI, you go for a permit, and you develop it.
I think, Bill Youngblood would know better than I would, but I think there was historical problems, meaning I think the town tried to.
Yeah, maybe you might have to condemn it, but it's a much cheaper property. It's not being used, not being used for anything. There could be something unusual going on with that property.
Yeah,
I've always thought there was.
Yeah.
It was never occupied, so it's like, what is it? But truly was never occupied, so it wasn't even like, oh, it's a safe house or something like that. But it's a just much more obvious choice when you look at the topology I sent in a letter, I sent you some charts showing it, and this is clearly the 251 is clearly a second best alternative, and unfortunately you're spending quite a bit of money and losing. Of course, you're going to lose a rateable in either case, right? So, but this one is truly, 251 is truly marketable. 261 is not marketable.
Your email was very extensive. It was very informative. Thank you.
Thanks.
No, you don't have to leave yet. I just said thank you for the email.
No,
Somebody else, John. Yeah.
No, I mean, I just in conversations, I sort of echo what Mike said. It just seems there's a lot of thought did go into 261, but it seems there's a lot of issues that have to be surmounted that are not there as much at all with the 251.
And surmount them, it's the obvious issue, the obvious choice to use that property for a lot of reasons. So it doesn't matter if there's wetlands on it. That doesn't matter. You surmount that.
Bill, are there issues with that property that have been inherently problematic?
Can you just identify who Bill is?
He's right here.
No, but I mean his role.
Bill Youngblood, Realtor.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And it's, Jack can speak. I want to be careful not to discuss too much of the environmental concerns about 261. That's not what's before you tonight.
Yes.
I understand Bob's suggesting it's an alternative.
I would ask you to table the motion.
I think so. I think that's a good idea, so the
I
council can
like
interact with open space.
Principle is wonderful. It's a great idea. I don't think you have necessarily enough information to.
Yeah, I don't think we have enough information. Your email kind of summed everything up, and really, But I think I appreciate your recommendation to table.
But we haven't, well, just appropriating the funds, in fact, purchasing it, there's still due diligence to be done.
Yeah, we're appropriating for 251
One of
Claremont.
the contingencies in the contract is that
If the funds are appropriated.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Can I talk?
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
How are you?
Cindy Edwards, I'm here on behalf of someone who backs up to that property.
Okay.
And they're not happy that there's going to be that Peter's Tract, I
Activity,
guess,
okay.
is going to be developed. And I was wondering, do you...
Wait.
Not developed, is passive or active, first of all?
I don't even know. It's just that you're just trying to gain access to it.
Right, but usually within an open space committee, they sort of designate whether it's going to be active space or passive space before they purchase it. That's what I've seen in Basking Ridge anyway.
I don't think any
Because that means a
determination.
whole different ballgame. You're talking about walking trails,
Nothing,
nature trails, things like
nothing has
that,
been
versus a
planned
ball
out.
field with
No,
lights
no.
and paved
If
parking
anything, we
lots,
were
stuff
trying to
like
put in trails to connect all of the different trails we're putting in.
Sorry.
Ball
We have to
fields
leave that
were never,
open.
and none of this was discussed
Thank
at
you.
all. The idea is to get access to it and then see what could be done and bring the town in to look, the entire town in to look at it, to see what could be done. But I mean, plans to put ball fields and stuff in there, no. We already own Peter's Track.
Yeah, no, I understand that, I used to back up to a property like that in Basque Ridge, and I had a divisible lot, and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice someday that they had walking trails back there, and then I started to think about, you know, strangers like walking around my backyard, or, you know, I have open space from where we are in Bernardsville now, and kids come up and smoke pot, so you then have to think about putting resources towards extra policing.
Have you ever called the police?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever called this?
No, I went up there and dealt with it myself. They, you know, I live across from like the Devil's Lair. My driveway's like, and it's in like New Jersey. What's that creepy thing? New Jersey.
We're in New Jersey.
We're New Jersey. We're New Jersey. So they climb on top of a stone structure, and they're, you know, they will put up logs. And I'm worried someone's going to fall. More, it's not my liability, but so I took the lawn chairs and threw them in my dumpster that were there, and it was a big, you know, place to hang out, drink beer, smoke pot, and whenever Halloween comes around, someone might park in my driveway because it's right across from there. So, I mean, these are real issues. I was just wondering, do you do outreach to the people who
That's
back
what
up
we
to this?
We are
Before
planning on
you
doing
buy.
outreach if we can even buy the property.
Yeah.
In order to buy the property, we need 3 appraisals. Then that is averaged out, and then the person who owns the property has to agree to that appraisal. So this is just appropriating money to see if we can even get the piece of property.
And then when I saw the number for the appraisal in the paper, or the 950, I thought, oh my God, you're really overpaying.
No,
Oh, that's not the price. Okay, good.
That's not the
'cause I was
price.
just-
We need the appraisals, and it's got to go, it's a long, rigorous process.
Yeah.
This is just to know that we've set aside money.
Yeah.
In case something else comes up, that money won't be touched, in case we can possibly buy a piece of property to get us into the property that the town's owned that we've never been able to use.
Well, I know, like, I like to hike. But I also have been in the position of these homeowners who back up to it.
Yes.
And it's scary, you know, it's like, you don't know who's gonna be on those trails, you don't know who's gonna go up there.
I think that's why everybody's here tonight. They want to state their opinion, so,
Yeah,
well, thank
okay,
you
so
very
I
much,
will
though.
be done.
But we will have, if we even get a piece of property to get into Peter's Track, we will have a meeting with a couple meetings with the town to have everybody's input.
Right, and historically, what I've seen is you have to be careful because very often the town then gets criticized for overpaying for these properties because the owners know they have leverage.
That's why we get 3
And
appraisals.
Bernardsville
Independent appraisals.
Bernardsville is in a free fall.
Yeah,
so,
yep.
you know.
Yes, Jack.
I need to clarify something.
Yeah.
At this point, no mistake you made. At this point in time, subject to this money being appropriated, the borough has agreed to purchase the property for $900,000. As Mr. Stella said,
See, that's what I thought.
from the Land Conservancy explained last time, Green Acres would reimburse the borough for 50% of the appraised value. So this ordinance tonight is crucial, one way or the other. If this ordinance passes, you'll be contractually bound to buy it for $900,000, subject to environmental contingencies.
Okay.
Then it's overpriced.
Well, that's why we have to get appraisals.
That's our taxpayer.
And the other 50,000 is for the soft costs as appraisals and fees. Yes, sir.
Tom Staver on 15 Tyson Street. In the interest of at least me being informed,
Yes, sir.
I have no idea who "we" is, and I'm sorry, but this individual who's recognized but not by name.
This is Ms. McFadden. She's the chair of
Pat
the open
McFadden, I'm
space.
the chair of open space.
And did I correctly hear that we're getting appraisals, but yet tonight an ordinance is presented to purchase for $900,000?
To appropriate.
And the intent to appropriate and the intended purpose has not yet been identified as even active or passive. Am I on the same page?
The property, Peters Tract is passive recreation.
But I just heard we have to, I'm sorry, we need to identify that, or we have to see if we can purchase it first. I kind of see, I don't purchase something first and then
We
see
own Peters Tract. We
Yes, I
own
understand.
33 acres. It was donated to the town. The entire town has not been able to use Peters Tract because we have no access to it. What we are trying to do is buy a piece of property so that everybody in the town can have access to Peters Tract.
It seems like it's unclear where we are in that process. If we're appropriating funds that we haven't clearly identified, again, passive or active.
Well,
Can I finish? To make a blind purchase without knowing its intended use does not seem fiscally responsible to me, nor responsible to the people in this room, the people watching, and the people that vote for people in this town, and pay taxes. So it should be clear what its intended purpose is going to be, so we can all look at it and say, no, I don't want swing sets in parks. I don't want the daddage coming and hanging out in my backyard in the future looking for people to pick
What
up
we
from
are
the
trying-
trash. Whatever that may be, everybody speaking here should be clearly identified what their role is in this, what their stake is in the game, and let us vote or speak accordingly.
And that's
But
that's
to
why we
get
have an
this
open
message
session.
back and forth from people, I don't even know who's speaking. Nothing against you, man. You're in the know, apparently. But
Not that much, apparently.
well, more than I. Well, that's what I mean. There seems to be some
All right,
confusion. And we
let's
tackle
keep it
issues
directed
without
towards
knowing
the
all
council.
information. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
What
Go ahead, Pat.
What we would like to do is get access to a passive piece of property that's been used by just a few people that live around it, so the whole town can use this passive piece of property. If we can get access to it, and if there was any way anything else could be done, we would have the entire town involved on deciding what would be done at that point. But right now, it's only meant for passive recreation, that's all.
Once it's purchased.
Well, we're not going to get into hypothetical now.
We
you
can't
know.
get into hypothetical
Yeah,
because
so-
we don't even know if we can purchase it. If we don't come to an
But you
agreement,
wouldn't
it's not going to
purchase
be
it
purchased.
without some game plan of we hope to do this.
Well, that's what
once
she
we
just said,
acquire it.
passive recreation.
And the gentleman spoke about another opportunity, maybe that come at a lower price, but would let
Okay.
hoops to jump to.
Sir.
That's all I'm saying.
All right,
I know you don't like when I talk.
Mr. Reynolds, I have to give everybody 5 minutes because we have a lot of people who also want to speak.
Steve Reynolds, Stevens Street. Has it been thought about getting access from Youngs Road to get to the...
Youngs Road is private. It's a private roadway.
And if you wind up with a few cars there, there's no access in or out for the residents.
But it seems like there's enough land where you could clear some trees and make a parking lot and then have access that way.
Youngs Road is very narrow.
Okay.
If you're going down there and you have a larger vehicle, it's very difficult to
really-
get in and out of.
So
Yeah.
it's maintained privately by the owners?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That would have been easy.
Ma'am,
I
just come state your name for the record, please.
Amanda Falk
How you doing?
at 50 in Bernardsville. And I just was here when we were going through the whole dog park, and I thought that it had gone back to the survey of trying to make the town better. And I don't understand why we keep on trying to put money outside the town where the real problem is trying to rebuild and bring people to our downtown. I don't know why we're putting money elsewhere and with our tax dollars and not focusing right where the center of town.
Well, there's very little open space to buy in the center of town.
But
And
so
we
has
have a
anyone
preserved
ever
piece of land
seen
here.
one of the huge buses come up the peony farms on Claremont? I mean, the traffic that we're trying to get up Claremont, I don't understand that.
You see, I have nothing to do with it.
Okay, I'm just
That's
saying,
privately owned.
Okay. Anyone else?
No,
Sir?
the traffic it brings on.
Okay.
How you doing?
Good. How are
Good.
My name's John Ruprecht. I live at 122-3 Young Road, and my property backs up to the whole side of Peters Park, or Peters Tract, okay? Couple of concerns here. First of all, what the previous lady said, I think we ought to be looking at spending, I understand this is Green Acres money, but then we shouldn't be taking so much money from our tax dollars to put into Green Acres if we don't have a place to spend it. So we have a train station that looks terrible and has fallen down, and should be a gem of the town. It should be something beautiful to look at. And we're out spending money up where people are paying taxes and high taxes to have privacy. And the reason we bought there and we're willing to pay the freight here is so we have privacy. Here, now we're going to be bringing in who knows what. How are we going to patrol this property? And there's horror stories. I mean, look at the stuff that happens down on River Road Park. I won't even get into that. But there's other that have brought in all kinds of people that are undesirable. Okay? So, you know, the taxpayers up around, you know, in Bernardsville, especially up on the mountain, have been hit hard by tax reform. And now, what we're going to do is we're going to put in a park that is going to bring in who knows what, walking around. And I'll tell you right now, actually, my property is on the market. Okay? Everybody that comes and looks at my property wants to know what they're doing with the 30 acres next door. Okay. So, we've already been hit hard. Everybody knows the market up on the mountain is tough. People are into their properties for a lot of money. This is just going to bring more burden, heavy burden, on the people that live up there that have purchased there for privacy. I question the whole thought process here of bringing in purchasing this property. You have a house on it. So what are you going to do with the house? You're going to knock it down. You're going to demo the house. Maybe you're going to build a little parking lot up there. You can't even see the parking lot from Claremont Road where it would be when you go up and down, because it goes up into a secluded like plateau. So who knows what's going to go on up there at night? Okay, so the police department is going to be up there patrolling this thing all the time. I don't see the benefit to the town versus the cost. Have we surveyed how many people are actually going to use this property? I talked to my wife, would you walk this property? She goes, absolutely not. She goes, it's too dense. I would be afraid to walk that property. People go down and they walk narrower because it's open. So I think we should be looking at, I don't know the particulars of the property, but an example would be Meadowbrook Farm. I'm sure you heard this before. We should be socking away some money for someday that opens up. It doesn't back up to any homes. It's got the railroad track on one side, the quarry on one side, 202 on one side, Meeker on the other side. There's no homes immediately in its vicinity.
And we do have an open space inventory. And these other properties are on this inventory. It's just a matter of fact getting people to sell.
So, I mean, there's real safety concerns. Mm-hmm. Safety concerns for the people that back up to this property. And I respectfully asked the council to reconsider what we're doing here. I mean, there's other places our town needs to be spending money. Bringing people into the town, to go to our restaurants, to spend money in our town. Yeah. Not walk around.
But we're talking about open space right now.
I understand
the downtown.
That.
We don't want to confuse the train station with open space. So, because we can't take open space funds and invest in a train station. All right?
Understood.
And don't shout out in the audience, all right? Whoever did, I don't know. The gentleman has the floor. He speaks.
So I think that Peters Park is going to be damaging to the people that have surrounding properties up there, that have spent a lot of money and maintain their properties nicely. And it's a safety issue. Just one more thing, one of the neighbors has small children, has real concerns about people actually coming up to his property, coming on his property, taking one of his kids. I mean, that's legit. It's not, we don't live in a world that was 20 years ago.
Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to wrap it up because other
Okay.
people want to speak.
Thank you.
Okay. Ned, how you doing? How you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good.
I'm Ned Ginty. I am the family member or resident that John referenced that does have 3 small children. We live at 122-2 Young Road. We are not in favor of Peters Tract being developed. We've been living there since 2011, and we know that property very well. People want to come to our house and they want to survey it. Our door is always open. The damage that was done during Sandy, significant. There are rotting trees everywhere. There are trees falling down. The expense that it's going to take to clear that property and all the things. I can tell you what it costs us just on our own property, and we have 5 acres, let alone 30 acres. I am very worried about my children. I have 3 small children. They're in 6th grade, they're in 4th grade, and they're in 2nd grade. Okay, I do believe that again, your imaginations can run wild, but they're my kids. Okay, they're my 3 kids. They're not your 3 kids, they're my 3 kids. Okay, I don't like the fact that there is deer hunting there. And I came from a family of hunters, multi-generational. And there are cars that go on Young Road who park there to hunt, even though, as has been stated on the record, it's a private road. But they're accessing Young Road to hunt. Clear and simple. From 6:30 in the morning until 9:30 or is it 6, and then the afternoons. Right? So we're confused ourselves as residents. When does private start and when does public begin? Okay? You all know what my passions are for money to be used in this town. I've been here before, okay? And I've spent thousands of hours, thousands of dollars in terms of helping our community think, brainstorm, working on it with John and other people about how to use open space for the betterment of the town. Here's the bottom line for me besides safety. There are better ways to use money, even in open space, that can generate revenue for this town. Revenue that we can bring in to beautify all the things that we want. If you make walking trails, forget about the dangers for a minute. And by the way, it's hard for me to forget about it. It's hard for my wife to forget about it. Hard for my kids to forget about it. But let's forget about it for a minute. Once it's done, whatever we say it's going to be, walking trails, let's say for argument's sake it's 100% safe. What revenue do we get for making this property usable and accessible? None, right? You're not going to charge people to come in. But using open space for something like our sports facilities that can be used over and over again for camps, for clinics, for birthday parties, for a fraction of the money that we're talking about, a fraction of it, that can be used to pay for itself. That's what I want. That's what our residents want. Okay? They want to make sure that this town becomes what we want it to be. And we all saw, maybe you didn't read it yet, I'm sure most of you did, the survey we did from the youth football program, which we gave to other programs to answer as well or participate in. They firmly believe that the property values of the town are going to be impacted by the lack of access or availability of acceptable sports facilities. Now again, that's my passion.
Yes.
Other people may have other passions to use for open space. But my biggest thing is that there are better uses of these funds so that we can generate revenue for this town to pay for the things that a lot of us want to help beautify the town and increase property values and keep drawing in the young families that will help with property, so that you guys can have taxes, a tax base. If you buy this property and demolish it, you lose a property to generate taxes and tax revenue, right? So not only is that gone, but then you're going to spend money to buy the house. And again, I welcome anybody who wants to come and we'll go through Peters Tract. And you can see just how difficult is the nicest way I can put it to develop it in terms of the cost. Because this is going to be a lot more the $900,000. I'm stating the obvious.
Yes.
So that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Ned, thank you. And you're right on time, perfect 5 minutes there. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Yes, please, thank you.
My name's Elizabeth. I live at 70 Postman Hart Road. And I just wanted to say that as a taxpayer here in Bernardsville, I think this is not at all a smart use of our taxpayer money, open space funds, all of it. It just seems like a huge project to me. We're paying almost full price, if 900,000 is the right number we might be talking about, for a house that's been on and off the market since 2013. So we're paying full price for a house with a pool and that, as well as the acreage that it's on. The town will also lose, I think, around $17,000 in taxes each year by this becoming a public park. I think there will probably be significant costs to, if the article I read said that maybe the house would not be kept. And if that's the case, the town would be spending a lot of money to remove the house, remove any other buildings, the pool, regrade the property, cut down trees, and then actively set up a park. Parking grounds, trails, bathrooms, I don't know what all that would entail. And then there would also be an annual maintenance to take care of that park. So I just think it's a ton of money, that this 900,000 is probably just the beginning. And I think that there are better ways and better places that we could put our money. And there are also, as someone who walks and hikes constantly, there are tons of parks and trails around here. You can go to Lewis Morris, you can go to Natterer, you can go to Sherman Hoffman, you can go to Schiff. I mean, we do have plenty of places that we can use for hiking, and I just don't think that this is a wise one to invest that type of our money.
Thank you. Sir?
My name is Frank Ferrer, 3 Autumn Hill Drive, Bernardsville. So I guess one of my things is open space. Sometimes it just needs to be open space. Is it only open space when we as people make it open space? So we have to build parking lots and trails, and there's an awful lot of deer, there's bear in the area. You know, I would imagine they live in that area. We're going to be taking some of that away so that we can walk in there to enjoy open space. I guess I just don't get that. I mean, why can't we just leave it there? It's been there for forever. They built the communities around that space. Yeah, it was donated, probably because no one could do anything with it. Let the animals stay where they are, because, you know, when I'm walking in my yard and all of a sudden, you know, the deer and I scare each other, he goes running away. Well, that's what's going to happen here. I mean, I'm sure there's a great habitat there. People are tromping through there. Those animals are going to get out of there. They're going to go somewhere else to properties that have children or, you know, whatever. But I think we just need to keep it as open space. I mean, $1 million to buy a home that you're going to tear down, put a parking lot in, that we're calling Green Acres again, whatever, either you pave over it or you stone over it, you're going to do something like that, right? Green is going away from Green Acres money. I guess I just, you know, we're using terms here that don't make any sense, because, you know, we're taking away open space, because it is open space. Yes. We're taking away open space, and we're taking away Green Acres. So I guess I just don't understand that. Right. And I think we can use that money better. I mean, you know, we've torn down every tree we can in town, right? Claremont is starting to tear down every tree, but condos going up. And so, I mean, I think we just need to leave open space open space.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm Melinda Beezer. I live 134 Valentine Road, so I'm at the top of Hills Road. It might be repetitive what I'm saying, but I just want it to be on the record that I'm saying this. I have a huge concern about safety of my children as well, and a lot of families around us that aren't here tonight that I represent, young families with young children. And not that I'm young, but I do have young children. Secondly, privacy. I mean, we moved to Bernardsville because it's a private, quiet town.
And we walk the pavements, we walk the streets, and that's part of the joy of Bernardsville. We don't need any more, we can go to Navarre if we want Navarre, we can go to the other places mentioned. So the value of spending $1 million to open up walking trails when the beauty of our town is to be able to walk up on the mountain, it doesn't make sense. At least to me and to many people that I know in the town. So I don't feel it's the best use of taxpayer money, which I pay a lot of. I do feel there's a safety issue, and I do feel that you're losing the beauty of the privacy that Bernardsville offers to its residents.
Thank you. Anyone else? Kath?
Kathy Redling, 211 Claremont. A couple of things, reading specifically in the ordinance. I don't know if everybody else noticed here, but it does state that the property is, quote, to be used for open space and recreation purposes, and in particular, provide parking and access to Peters Tract. So that word recreation is in there. The section 2 also states, any or all other ordinances or parts thereof in conflict or inconsistent with any of these terms are hereby repealed. So anything that's pre-existing on Peters Tract, because of the way it's conveniently worded. I question that, as well as a neighbor. Frank, I love what he says about the bears, the snakes, the foxes. It's their habitat. 261 might allow us better access. This is definitely too fast, too much money, and not appropriate. And I know Open Space Committee has also looked at a property other than Meadowbrook Farm along 202 that isn't ideal either. Well, unfortunately, the ideal open space doesn't exist. But we are trying very hard to find places to utilize and to conserve. Peters Tract was given to us years ago. Across the street, we have additional land. The trails, actually, I would love to see, and Boy Scouts tried to partner with Open Space years ago, on the opposite side, going up Claremont, that we could have a meandering trail. I forget how many 100 yards go through there, partnering with Raritan Headwaters and our own open space. We could have a beautiful path through there. Thank you.
Thanks, Kath. Thank you. And so, yes, sir.
Good evening, Scott Parenti, 221 Claremont Road.
Sorry about the door, but that we have another
no
meeting,
worries.
so we have to leave it open. Yeah, that's why we said that. Yeah.
And I was trying to hear this gentleman when he was speaking. You were saying that the ordinance was a precursor or a contingency within the contract. Is that something that the residents have been able to see, the land, the purchase, the contract?
It's certainly public record, you can. But I was just trying to make it clear to the council, and I think they knew this, that there's a contract to purchase it for $900,000 with two contingencies. One is environmental, and the other is the adoption of this ordinance. And so if this ordinance passes, there'll be a binding contract subject only to environmental contingencies.
And that really was the key. I understand everything that everyone has said, the safety, the environmental concerns. But for me, it's that as soon as that vote is cast, we're locked in.
Yes.
And there's only one way out, and that's if the DEP doesn't allow or some other wetlands restriction or something like that. And the other piece, and I think that's really important for everyone to really understand, if that maybe most everyone already did understand that, but once that happens, we're in, we're locked in.
Yeah.
That's a fair statement. Okay. So this is a extremely crucial. Like this is it. You're setting the match to the powder keg. The other piece is, it seems to me that right now the highest and best use of that property is a residence, and any type of appraisal that you're going to get is going to go towards that highest and best use, and you're going to pay at that market rate. That's right now, whatever the price is, $900,000. I know you decide $50,000, but you're going to spend probably in the neighborhood of $800,000 for this at a minimum. I mean, you're going to get low and high and medium appraisals. So my question, and this gentleman, I think it was Mr. Grant,
Yes.
Okay. Said it, very well. It's your attention. I think the efforts of the council needs to be re-exerted, and I apologize for not knowing this and how much energy's been put in to get 261. But I think more energy needs to go there. I don't know the environmental concerns, but to take something that was a prior perfectly good residence and to knock it down and to destroy all that economic value, to me, just doesn't make sense. Whereas you directed that energy towards 261, I believe. Pardon? 261, the one further that's vacant, and that's right where the right-of-way is already. Is that my understanding?
Exactly.
So you're going to have a right-of-way at 261, but then you're going to have a purchased area at 251. They're kind of at two different spots. Yes. Okay. So I'm not sure how that makes sense, and I understand what Mr. Graham. I apologize.
It's all right.
Has there? I don't know the level of discussions that have gone on with the Maycocks. Is that the? Oh no, Bernard. Bernhard is the family that owns the 261. Yes. Does anyone? Has anyone? Who would be the
attorney review?
There had been discussion. No, on 261, the Bernard.
261. Okay.
They're ongoing.
They're ongoing.
Yes.
But
for a number of years.
Yes.
But that would be almost moot once this ordinance gets passed, because, unless you expand the amount of open space, but that doesn't seem to make sense. Has there been any discussion about eminent domain?
No.
Would the council consider that?
Well, that's a hypothetical, and that would have to come up in future discussions.
Well, I think
with the attorneys in executive session first, yeah.
But I think that's especially, you're taking a piece of property that was habitable, that is habitable, beautiful from the inside, probably needs some updating, but can be, turned around, and I guess it fits within the character of the neighborhood. Whereas,
actually, 5 minutes.
Okay, I understand. Just bear with me.
Yes, I just say.
Whereas 261's been vacant, something's not resonating with me.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm George Peterson. I live at 301 Claremont Road.
Hi, George.
There's been some. I don't want to go over the ground that's already been covered, because I think the argument has been made that there are significant problems with owning that problem. Not only the security, but the cost of developing it. And my feeling would be, and in line with the gentleman against the wall down there, we're putting the cart before the horse. My sense is, open this up to discussion in the town of what environmental groups might be interested in participating in developing trails. What kind of outdoor clubs would find it fun to try and participate in developing this property? Or, as the gentleman put, open space, so that we don't chase after deer. We be careful about the trees that are falling down, but more importantly, that we have a solid plan before we take the step to buy the property. Because I gather from what I've heard, once we buy the property, then somehow the council has to blindly grope ahead and figure out what to do with it. So if we could put that aside until we have a really good workable plan, it seems to me that that's the way to go. And nobody has mentioned the ticks, but the place is crawling with ticks. I live near it, and I can tell you, picking them off my doggy all the time.
I just dropped one off at LabCorp today. I had it stuck in the back of my leg. Thanks, George. Anyone else? Yes, Melissa.
Hi, Melissa Provost, I live on Charles Road.
I think that this discussion brings about the need for us to have a greater discussion about what open space means to the borough. I don't think that it should be decided on a space-to-space basis. And I don't think that any one group of neighbors should decide what open space is and should be for the borough at large. I'm not saying anybody's wrong. I'm just saying that sitting here, I realize that many of the people who are against this purchase live in the exact vicinity of the property that we're talking about, which is fine. Everybody has a greater interest in things that are closer to them. But I think that studies show that parks and recreational spaces attract Gen Xers and millennials who don't want to have property of their own. And if we are trying to revitalize our downtown, like you had mentioned, then how else are we going to do it? We can't just throw money at the downtown. We try doing that. That's not working. We're looking at different ways of doing things. And the Downtown Alliance is working on that. But one way to attract younger families is to open it up to parks and recreational spaces. It also, parks and recreational spaces are also shown to increase the property values of the properties around it. Again, I have zero opinion on 251, 261, whatever else, but I do think that this discussion and our prior open space discussion about the drive-in road property really highlights the need for the borough to address this on a more universal basis as to what open space means to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Anyone else?
I'm sorry, I have one question.
Yes,
How
one question.
long has 251 been on your open space wanted list?
It was the council that.
Yeah, 251, not 261.
261 's been the one on your
was
wanted
not,
list,
yes.
but not 251.
251 was
Thank you.
presented to the council as an access point. Anyone else? Council members? Attorney? Anything? Ralph, I'm going to leave you out of it. Okay, recommendations?
So just for what it's worth, I mean, I hear everyone, what they say, but I do, what I've read in the anecdotal evidence I've had is, the discussion of what's going to happen to it, how much we're spending. The value proposition of the property, to me, is it gives us access to Peters Tract, and it doesn't come around very often. If the window closes, it might be closed for, I don't know, 56 years. And, I'd rather have a conversation about what to do with it, if anything. And I know up to like a few years something's going to happen to it. I mean, I live by Marine Crest Park. It's been there for 40-something years, and nothing's happened to it. So we don't have the money. So we just want access to it. So there'll be another generation, probably your kids will be, on the council at that point when we talk about doing something with it beyond trails. I mean, I mountain bike and hike, and it's nice to have new places to go, and it opens it up for the rest of the borough. So I take your points well, but from my perspective with the value proposition, it's just having the access, to be looking at it and not looking for it in future generations.
Anyone else?
Jack, I have a question. If you, since there's only 3 of us here, can we table it till the 26th when we have a larger body to?
Yes, you could continue the public hearing similar to what we did.
I think we should continue the public hearing. Council further meet with open space.
For no further notice of publication. Because in fact, it does take 3 affirmative votes to pass an ordinance, regardless of how much you are here. And I would just like to clarify again, and I take no position on whether you purchase this or not, but the purchase price is set. The appraisal won't change that. If in fact you go ahead with this. I just want to make that clear. The purchase price is $900. So this ordinance is crucial one way or another.
I think we should table it, have further conversation in open space, include Mr. Graham. And we all heard what the residents' concerns were this evening. And so,
Do you have to make a motion,
I'll
Jack?
entertain a motion,
Yes.
yeah, I'll entertain a motion
Continue the public hearing
to
until
continue the
November
public hearing
26th.
until November 26th, and I'll be traveling November 26th, so I won't be here. Everybody, you here? Everybody's here?
I'll make a motion.
All right, motion to carry by Mr. Sullivan, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Samara. Jack, roll call.
Yes, please.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mrs. Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to continue this public hearing, further discussion with Open Space Committee, and for all the residents till the November 26th meeting. I want to thank everyone. Thank everyone for your input this evening and attending. And a special thanks to our Open Space Committee, because you've been hanging in there for many years. Okay, now watch me, because sometimes when I get tired, I start skipping.
I think that was the hairiest one here.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
Plus, there's other realtors here, so we should go out for RFPs.
Well, it's the seller pays, so it's not costing us anything, you know.
Yeah, but I don't think we should just designate one realtor. We have the, we have people, you know, plus it could, I think it was subject to a lawsuit.
Yeah.
I think it could, I don't know, well, I'm gonna ask the committee what they think about this. All right, ready, folks? Ready to move on? Okay. All right, folks. All right, we're going to continue the meeting, please. That was out, right? Yeah, 18-17-87. You there? Discharge of a bow? Yes.
We're going to use December 10th on the public hearing for the next one, 1787, just because of the holiday with
Okay.
Thanksgiving and everything.
All right.
It says 26th on here, but it should be the 10th.
I don't entertain a motion to move that ordinance 1787, an ordinance reducing the minimum area required for discharge of a bow, an arrow, and supplementing and amending Chapter 3 of the Borough Code entitled Police Regulations, be introduced by title, passed on first reading, published according to law, that a public hearing be scheduled for a meeting at 7 p.m. and we're going to change the date to December 10th, 2018. Do I have a motion? Move. Moved by Mr. Donahue.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Sullivan. All in favor?
Aye.
Christine? Aye. Okay, opposed, abstained, the ayes have it.
Do we do 84, the animal control?
Which one was that one?
That's gonna be 11/26.
Yeah, we amended it.
Yeah.
We're going to do on
November 26th, we carried that one.
Amendment only requires 2 days published notice.
All right, resolutions. All right, Jack, we have 18-248.
It's being pulled.
Pull.
No, yeah, let's pull, table 248 to the next meeting. And 247 you're pulling.
Okay, for further discussion. Anyone else?
I'd just like to note that the title of 246 should be authorizing an amendment to the SLAO contract. All it does is changes the payment scale. It's still the same bottom line, but Leslie Roberson asked that it be just during the school year rather than over the first 12 months. So it's just a technical correction.
I just have one comment on, Jack, on the sludge agreement.
Yes.
There's just one inconsistency in the agreement with time. Section 3, paragraph F. It says shall expire 3 years from the date of the execution. I think it's just a typo.
I'm sorry, what section was that from?
Section 3, paragraph F.
No, it's 3 years. That's what John McDowell's recommendation is. What's the resolution say?
John, 3 years or 6 years?
It's a 3-year.
3 years. I'm sorry, John. I didn't know what you were doing.
It's 3, that's fine. I thought it was 6.
Yeah, no, it's 3.
All right, we're okay? John, you have anything?
No.
You okay? Christine?
No.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to move resolutions 18-234 to 18-246. We'll be pulling in accordance 18-248, 251 Claremont Road for future, and 18-247 for further review and executive session contract negotiations. Moved by Mr. Sullivan.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Mara. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Mara?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan? Yes. Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
All right, item 6C, request from Ridgeway adopting a bench. You all get a chance to look at that?
Yep.
She's here.
Oh, miss, yeah, come on. How you doing? Come on up. How are you?
It's my first time here.
That's okay. It's like, Price is Right. Come on up. Just state your name and
Sorry,
yes for the clerk.
Kimberly Ridgeway. My family lived here for a very long time. I'm the Ridgeways. We used to live at 366 Midland Road.
Okay.
My father passed away on September 11th of this year. And we all grew up here. And we would like to donate, as all my brothers and sisters, I have 5 brothers and 2 sisters, and we want to donate a bench on his honor.
Okay.
So I'm pleading for you guys to see where that place that he used to be part of the Bernardsville Boy Scouts.
Okay.
And he used to take the Boy Scouts about the Patriots.
Path.
Yes.
Yeah, the path, yeah.
And so we wanted to see if that would be possible to put a bench around his honor in that area. And, you know, it will mean a lot to all of us. I know a lot of us I'm the only one in New Jersey. After September 11, a lot of us scattered. And then my father moved to California, and then he passed away. And then my brothers and I want to honor him here because this is where we live. And he was part of the Boy Scouts, and he was part of the high school council.
Yes.
And all that. So
Yeah, I was reading about him.
So
yes.
sorry.
But don't keep saying it now because the public didn't get a
Yes,
chance.
sorry,
Yes.
I didn't mean to be.
No.
I'm nervous,
I think that was very, very,
so
very involved.
we just would like to see if you guys will honor that and be able to honor that on him.
Sure, I don't, does anybody
So-
have a problem with it or anything? Or? Christine,
We
okay?
don't- Where's John? John, where do you put the bench? Excuse me, now, John, do we have an ordinance as to, like?
Yeah, we have, yeah,
Yes. The one issue I was thinking of, if your Patriots Path in Bernardsville is all on federal property across the state, is that correct? Someone that knows a little bit more about it?
Well, I was gonna suggest, so we recently created a new trail. It's called the Patriots Path Connector. So it connects.
Old Army Trail, yeah.
But it's part of it connects to the Patriots Path and it's in town. So it goes from the middle school property, like the polo grounds, and it goes all the way to the Audubon, which connects to Patriots Path.
Right.
So
that'd be fine.
I was going to
If you're
suggest the same
amenable to
thing
that,
because we have really good relationships with New Jersey Audubon.
Yeah.
And I think they'd be very receptive to that. And it would just make administering it a whole lot easier than trying to find someone.
John, who's handling it? Is it recreation or Doug? Do you remember? I can't remember.
So the ordinance just says that we would work with you, I guess, or let you know where the correct places that it could go. So
But that's fine.
And basically
we have no
styles,
problem.
designs, you know, so we want to keep a
Right.
uniform style, but,
So someone will get in touch with me and then
the cost, right? So the cost it has to be determined by us, so
Mhm.
once we get that, then
You'll
we'll
let me
come
know.
back
And
to
then
you.
you're thinking about the Patriot, I'm sorry, the name of the
Old
trail.
Army Trail.
Old Army Trail.
Old Army Trail, so I can also send you information on the location,
that'd be
once I
great.
talk to, I guess, you guys, Doug and John, to come
Yeah.
up with a good spot.
We've got a good spot where people will use it, and it's visible, and your
that'd
family
be
could visit
great.
when they come out here. and visit.
Yeah, like I said, I'm the only one in New Jersey,
Uh-huh.
and my brothers and sisters were wanting to spread it by the road where we used to live, so I got really upset. So that's when I thought, why don't we donate a bench
That'd be perfect.
with all the trails, because, we grew up with the Matheny School and
Yes.
all that, going through all that, so
Thank
that'd
you
be
for that.
great, so
Well, thank you
so
very much.
for
Thank
listening to me.
you, and we're
Have a
approved,
nice
so you're
evening.
ready. Yes, okay, so Christine, your liaison with her? Thank you.
Thank
you very much. Okay, 6D, Board of Adjustment vacancy. It's an alternate position.
That was from Michelle Pingerton. I'm not sure if she's here tonight, but she was going to come and, I guess, be questioned about by the council. If council had any
Okay.
questions. I'm not sure if she's here, but if not, we can table it.
Ms. Pinkerton?
Is that not here?
No? Okay. I table it, yeah, we'll see. I'm moving it, to be fair, we have new council members coming on, a new mayor, so we might want to just carry this into next year as an alternate position.
Anthony, how many alternates are there available right now?
There's just one, alternate number 4. That's it. We filled the other ones,
The other night?
yeah.
Because just to let you know, this Joseph Lucas, highly qualified too, he's retired dentist.
Okay.
But yeah.
I think it would be fair to just move it to the reorganization.
Okay.
Any vacancies at this point, unless they're,
Right.
All right, special events, holiday cookie call. Olivia, you always pick the busy meetings to come down here. I don't know.
It's a shame too, because all these people were talking about all these revitalization things that they want to do, and now they're all gone, so we can talk about it, and they're gonna miss out. Right?
They'll see you on the internet.
With any luck, they'll see it later, right? For the record, I'm Olivia Manning. Mayor Stewart, ladies and gentlemen of the council, our community, whoever's left, thank you for listening to me this evening. I am here to discuss the next event for Bernardsville Special Events. However, I would like to take a moment to highlight some important details about the efforts of our group as it relates to the revitalization effort in Bernardsville. After our first event in October, the town should know that what we're doing is working.
Trunk or treat was fabulous.
Yes, and that's what
Fabulous.
in an effort to bring back an event that the town asked for, I approached our library about working together to create a fun Halloween-themed event centered around a trunk or treat. The goal was to entertain families, not just the kids. We planned vendors for shopping and eating, activities, and many other fun events just outside the library in the parking lot. The library team had their own amazing activities brewing inside, giving our community an almost overwhelming afternoon. While Mother Nature didn't cooperate on the event day, sadly, we were still able to conduct our trunk or treat while the library hosted their amazing events inside. Because we, the Bernardsville Library, and Bernardsville Special Events worked together, we hosted over 1,600 people in the library that day.
Yes.
Yeah, it was great.
7 hours.
Long day. I overheard guests saying how they were from areas as far as Hillsborough and Caldwell. Our combined efforts of advanced planning, marketing, and execution allowed us to not only share a fun day for families getting out of nasty weather, but it brought people to Bernardsville. This was accomplished after just one event this year. How many of these 1,600 people visited our restaurants for lunch? How many stopped into one of our little downtown shops because they're just too cute to miss? Imagine how much more we can do if we all work together as a community. This includes our businesses, our schools, our residents, and other nonprofit organizations in town. As a one-woman show, I have a handful of awesome volunteers, but I can't connect with everyone. But in this public setting to our town, hopefully people are listening, I invite any and all who are interested to join our efforts by combining resources, helping volunteer for planning and execution of events, or to support the effort in any way possible. In addition to our event efforts, I have launched downtownbernardsville.com. Like many of our neighbors in Summit, Somerville, and Westfield, All of these towns have a downtown website featuring events, business listings, lodging information, and much more. These sites exist in conjunction with and not in competition with other organizations, such as the Chamber of Commerce. Our website traffic went from 40 to 1,500 in 1 month as a result of our promotions and continues to grow exponentially. Businesses and organizations can find support here as well to help promote Bernardsville overall and encourage more growth for our town. Today, not later, but now. Businesses and residents don't have to wait for something to happen anymore. It's happening. It's happening now. In conjunction with other revitalization groups and efforts, Bernardsville is starting the road to growth. Now, about the cookie crawl, which is what I was supposed to talk about at the beginning. Bernardsville Special Events is hosting a town-wide cookie crawl on December 15th. It's an event where guests buy a ticket, they receive a box for cookies, and a map of participating businesses. They then walk through town or drive to various areas and pick up their cookies and do holiday shopping. Visits to stores will earn guests entries to win prizes, receipts for purchases, earn entries for more prizes. This is exclusively an event for shopping in town, bringing people to spend money in our town and therefore dining in our restaurants and enjoying our space. We hope to host a visit with Santa Claus in the afternoon for kids to enjoy the day as well. And what I would like to ask of you is to set up music in Alcott Square. 2 speakers, holiday music, playing from the event start to end, which is 11 to 4. It's a Saturday. Additionally, we would like to conduct a carol sing and serve hot chocolate at the gazebo here in Irvine Park after the activities around 6 o'clock in the evening, weather permitting. If there are any suggestions for a poor weather option, like a firehouse or somewhere else that we can maybe have a backup for poor weather, I am open to ideas on that front as well.
Okay.
Remember, I'm here to join the revitalization effort and bring people to town. I believe we have already accomplished this by only having scratched the surface. So thank you for the town's continued support, and I really would love to hope that we keep this momentum going. So if we can use Square for
Jack, for
some
Alcott
music.
Square.
The state, the DOT.
All right, so Anthony, could you reach out? Olivia sent something to Anthony and
Yeah.
told, just requested the music. Chief, you guys were great, the Halloween thing, everything, and trunk or
It was a
treat.
nice event.
You guys were really great. And
Very well. It was a nice event for the community. Well done.
we just ask for your support and, as you guys always do. You guys do a fantastic job.
You guys were.
You had the right guys in the library. They were into the Star Wars stuff and everything else.
Get out our stuff, but you squeezed this in.
Wasn't me, it was the library rules, so did what we could.
All right, so reach out for Anthony.
Okay. All right.
I'll check that with the state for your Alcott Square.
And then as far as using Irvine Park for a carol sing in the evening, it would be
What is
an
it?
hour. Using the park, the gazebo area.
The gazebo area,
Yeah.
that's ours, so we don't have a problem with that, yeah.
Do I need to
And we'll have
check?
our holiday displays down there and everything. So, just the usual, Anthony will tell you what you
Sure,
need.
it's all harmless and they
Yeah, the whole harness, like we do with everything else, the library and everything else, so. And everything's good, but thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you.
Okay. And you too, Tim. We're not gonna let you just sit there. Thank you. All right, turf field update, John. Any committee meetings or anything?
No, so this fall season
Reynolds?
just ended. I mean, I don't know if Ned's still here. I know.
Ned's there, he's right there.
The fall season just ended. We've
Mr.
been
Reynolds
talking,
here.
but, yeah, you can if you
Come on
want.
up, yeah.
Just give you a status report, or?
Yeah, I mean, I know, it makes it better
Yeah,
for these
look, I
guys.
mean, the fall season has just ended, so all the coaches that are particularly impacted or using the field for the fall seasons have been reached out to. Once the dust settles over the next week or so, we'll get together. There have been multiple outreaches to me from community members to be a part of the committee. John's done a great job, Marty's done a great job, other folks in the community done a great job. Sarah, who you're going to be talking to soon, I'm sure, as well. So everyone has a lot of ideas. Obviously, the goal is to get all this put together and then come up with some plans for the council to consider in terms of what the ultimate plan would be for the turf field. I alluded to that earlier in terms of the what I believe is better use of funds in terms of Peters Track, but there are estimates that have been given to us already in terms of what would be an ideal, let's just call it campus for lack of a better term, at the Polo Grounds. So we need more people to help us. We definitely want people who are experts in different fields as it relates to fundraising or for utility management or fencing and other types of things. But ultimately the goal is to have people in the community join us and idea share and best practice so that we can understand what options are available to us within the community and provide I would just say the most effective proposals for everyone, and then we can figure out what the ultimate source of funds can be. Clearly there, we talked about it before with asking the town for help, whether it be through the open space fund or figuring out ways to help us with fundraising or just donation identification or donor identification. So happy to answer any questions that people have, but the wish list from people that are coaches, I think some of them I think Sarah will tell you about, or the field hockey needs as well. So it's not just the list of people who were here, I think back about a month or 6 weeks ago. There's been more input coming as well as wish lists.
And it's going to continue to grow, and that's why it's important to have the committee and everybody work together.
Correct, but we definitely want, a group of people who are going to roll up their sleeves, and I think that's the last thing I would say is that the purpose of this group is to have people who can have their opinions, but ultimately come with solutions, and not just, you're wasting your time, or that didn't work before, or don't you understand why this can't work, or why we're entitled to something. It needs to be people who are going to come and figure out what the potential solutions are, rather than just identify the old issues and we get nowhere.
Yes. Very good. Thank you for your efforts too, because
if someone wants to be a part of this committee, what should they do?
Look, people can reach out to me. I'm not volunteering myself as the chairman. Okay? I have enough, as my wife will attest to there, but I think that's part of what I'm hoping to do is when we gather everybody is to set forth a mission. So it's not just another organization that one or two people who are already running organizations have to add to their their list of titles, right? Which we have too many. But I think the whole goal ultimately is for everybody to come to us and say, here's how I want to help. Here are issues that I think could be helpful, and not just come in and be folks that just, again, bring up the same old arguments, but just basically say, I'm committed to figuring out what these solutions are, and let's get to work.
How about we do after Thanksgiving, and at the library, get as many people who are interested in just to see who's volunteering, who's willing to work, and who's
Right, and I think that it's important to understand what kind of deadlines that can be used, or that we're facing as it relates to accessing funds, or what the criteria are in the open space fund, for instance, saying, what does recreation mean, right? That's very important for us. Like, what is the amount? I think I've seen where it's up to 15%, but ultimately having people say to us what it actually means, and what are you trying to achieve, and what are the issues facing certain sports that are very idiosyncratic for their season versus others, right? Football, one of the biggest issues is that it's diminishing sunlight day by day. We cannot practice on that field until 6 o'clock. After middle of September, the light is dissipating. We have to have lights, but lights cost a lot of money, and we are the ones that are footing that bill, right? What are other solutions for that? There are other seasons that don't use the field as much, and yet there may be potential fees that they would have to pay, but they're not using the field, in any abundance because there are other fields that they would be using. So in any case, those are the things we want to bring forth to this type of committee so that all issues are on the table, but more importantly, people are committed to the solutions.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I saw a lot of activity with emails this week concerning striping and doing different things, so
Right.
it sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, just while we're on the topic, Doug, is the county going to give us padding for the fences because they're too short?
That has to be determined by the council.
Okay.
Offered to
Do we have to actually request it, or I thought they were going to?
I'm sorry?
Would the council request the padding, or from the county?
Yeah, the county has
They
has
offer,
offered to
they
do
offer
that.
to do that, yeah.
Okay.
We just need a resolution from the council saying that they accept that solution.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Yeah, next meeting.
Next meeting?
Next meeting, Jeff?
Sure.
All right, very good. There we go.
I wanted to talk about the field hockey lines, and I think that's what you want to talk about, so.
Come on up, Coach.
So I'm Sarah Falzarano. I'm a resident of Peapack. I grew up in Bernardsville, off Mount Airy Road. Lived here until I was 26, and I teach at second grade at Bedwell. And this is my 15th year. I just finished as head coach of the varsity program at the high school for field hockey.
Congrats.
Thank you. So as we heard the rumors of turf coming into polo, it was a wonderful, wonderful thing for our high school coaches. And I know soccer coaches couldn't be here tonight as they're playing over at Ridge in the Group 2 semifinals right now, and it's 1-0 at halftime, which is wonderful. So what I do think, we were very excited about the rumors and the plans of everything going in. The coaches sat down together, came up with a wish list, per se, of what we would like to see before the turf goes in. A design, perhaps, best use of space, so multiple teams could practice at the same time, possibly with the softball field laid out in a different way. Another team could also practice, for example, while a softball game was going on. We do feel our requests and our concerns were ignored, and that's, done and over with. So moving on, I do believe that Mr. Ginty has a wonderful idea to put together a committee. Personally, I'm looking as a coach to develop my program for field hockey. We're number 6 in the state this season, in the entire state. We won our county championship second year in a row. Group 2 finalists, sectional finalists, and there are a lot of girls in our town who are interested in continuing this awesome tradition that we have on my team. But this field has 0 field hockey lines, 0 field hockey goals. It is not conducive to our sport at all. In fact, because of the way the softball field's set up, lines are inhibiting of adding painted lines onto it. There's just too many. And I'm speaking on behalf of the soccer coaches. They're not aware of it yet. They can't play soccer games on that field effectively. It's too narrow. And the goals are starting to rip up the turf as well, the soccer goals, because they're not turf goals, they're grass goals. So I feel that while this is an amazing addition to our town, and yes, I'm just like Mr. Ginty, I'm pro-athletics. I think there's so much to be gained from young children to high schoolers and college athletes. I think this was maybe done without listening to all parties involved that were going to use it. My program has been completely shut out of using it. My JV, my freshman, and the 7th and 8th grade team. The youth program that I'm looking to run is not going to be able to use this now, which means I now have to use the high school field. And again, most of these issues are something that are going to be addressed in a committee that could work together to make this better. And yes, selfishly it is for my program that I'm here, but I also feel that it does affect many people, that maybe the cart was put before the horse in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the matter? Council members?
Hey, Mayor, just one other
Yes.
point. With respect to the padding, I think it's very important to understand that what the rules state versus what the people who are using the field would want.
Okay.
Okay, it's very, I'm not saying it's easy, right? But to put padding up that's 5 yards behind an end zone, maybe what the rules say is the minimum required distance, but 14 and 15-year-olds going full speed through an end zone, particularly in football, are not going to slow themselves down 100% of the time and will be going into fencing even with padding. Whether it's at MetLife Stadium or others, you don't, I mean, as someone who goes to those games or watches them on TV, it doesn't really change, a significant amount of impact prevention or mitigation with padding there. we joked about it the last time, I love it to be more like a bouncy house, right?
Yep.
In terms of what's put there. But it needs to be more than just the standard type of pad that other towns have been using. I still don't feel comfortable, and I know our families within the football program don't feel comfortable, that would be sufficient.
And that's
so
what we have
I'd
to
like
work
people
on
explore
until, yep.
some level of distance, being increased, from the end zones.
And that's what we'll work on the committee level, and then move forward from there. Yes, sir.
Tom Stavrum, were the pads made by no means the solution any of us want to see? Due to the fact that they were brought up several meetings ago as a corrective action on the county's part, God forbid a child gets hurt, that's one issue. But the legal implications of being notified of an issue with a fix, and we're going to have a meeting on it next month. That's all I'm saying. Regardless if they're still playing football or it's a kid running on that field, it's been identified as a hazard and it's still open.
Well, we just said, if you were listening, we were doing a resolution for next. No, if you were listening, we're doing a resolution for next meeting.
I said it next meeting. I'm just saying.
Yeah, next meeting. You said next month.
I'm sorry.
The meeting. You said a committee meeting next
month.
month.
But I did misspoke.
All right, thank you.
You were listening.
Thank you.
If a child gets hurt, how much time has gone by since this corrective action was recommended by a county agency? And I'm sorry, one more thing. If we drag our feet to fix every little issue, or a temporary fix so the kid don't run into a fence, something's not right. And from the legal perspective, again, you're talking serious dollars. Once an issue's been identified and corrective action has not been taken by the appropriate agencies, you'd have a hard time justifying months going by from the date it was recognized till the date a temporary solution was implemented. That's my point.
Thank you.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Thank you.
Why don't you adopt the motion tonight? The county requires a formal resolution.
That's fine. There you go. Good recommendation. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, come
no,
on.
thank you. Thank you.
It's safety and
All right.
financial responsibility.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to move forward with the padding with the county engineering.
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. Donahue. Second by Mr. Sullivan. Roll call? Or Jack?
Jack, go ahead and do a roll call.
Yeah, roll call.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah.
Mr. Merrick?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the field issues? Recreation? John, you get it? All right, thank you. Ned, thank you. All right, letter to multifamily owners, we heard a little bit earlier. Anyone else with multifamilies? Any council members?
No, John and I had some email correspondence going back and forth, and I guess, Jack, I think ultimately you said let's, in order not to inundate our municipal employees, do it the greatest intensity now, maybe 10 a month, is that?
Well, I think the council needs to decide that. Probably we should discuss some of the issues in exec. But I think the council needs to approve any letter that goes out and also how you're going to go forward.
Okay. Denny? Yeah. Good. All right. All right, 6H, best practices worksheet.
Hey, can I have one question?
Yes, sir.
Can I say something?
Sure,
about
Bob.
Since you're sending a letter out, Stopper, as you know, any house that was multifamily prior to the ordinance is being adopted is grandfathered in.
Yes.
Now, we know when those ordinances were adopted, and possibly it could just be included in this part of the text or discussion, that's all, just so people are aware.
Very good. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Good. All right. Best practices. Annual
Yes.
report. Ralph.
Yes. That's sent to the CFO, and it's a list of questions that the state changes from year to year. Yes, the municipality to adhering to these things, and there's a percentage that is affixed to that you need to exceed to continue to get the highest level of state funding. and we've exceeded that. We've always exceeded it, and we have done it so again this year.
And great job. Stay on top of that. Any comments from anyone? No? Okay. 6I decals. Anthony
That was just
had some correspondence from a resident.
Yeah, it was a correspondent resident that wanted to add possibly having the price of the decal be a quarter of the annual fee come October 1st. Right now it's just July 1st, it goes to half price. This resident wanted to, or suggested it be a quarter of the price on October 1st.
Okay.
And the fees were, that I put in the resolution, are exactly what we had this past year, so that would just be the only change for that October 1st.
So that's up to the council if you want to consider that.
I don't see a problem with
We
that.
could put it on for next meeting.
Yeah, I could put a formal resolution on for next meeting.
And a start date, whether it be January 1st.
Yeah, it's January 1st, when we just done the 2019 decals, we'll do it for next year. Unless you want to do it for, it's up to you.
Can we do it for her now? Like,
Do we have any others, Anthony?
No, that was the only one.
That's the only one, okay.
That's up to council.
What do you guys think? John, you agree with it?
Yeah, I guess.
so she wants to pay $75
instead
of,
the 150, which is, for ordinance, that's what it would be right now, 150. I'm not sure if she was gonna park it at the kiosk or if she found an alternate method, but if not, then we can offer it to her now, if that's up to the council.
Is that your ad, letter G there?
Yes, that's the one that I added, that's what it would look like if we did it, that would just say after October 1st.
And then I guess they would do it, oh, I got you. Yeah, I mean, prorated it basically, right?
Right.
So, sure, sounds fair.
Sounds fair? Michael?
I'm fine, that's good.
So I can offer it to her,
Christine?
for this year, and then going forward, we'll, for next year, we'll put in the resolution.
Okay, so we'll amend that. And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right, all in favor, Anthony. Okay, reorganization. Anthony included expiring appointments, open appointments for next year. Mayor Canos, elect, he'll be part of that, so I don't know if Anthony forwarded you anything yet, but you know.
We're just waiting for some certified results from the county, which we haven't gotten yet,
Okay.
so eventually I will do that.
All right, very good.
They didn't send it out.
They didn't send them out yet,
It's,
yeah.
Anything certified yet, but I think that's, yeah, today was the day they were supposed to have it.
do we typically ask people if their term is up to resubmit like an updated application or their intent that they want to continue, or how does that?
I think we've sent letters in the past just asking people that their terms expired, do you want to be, do you wish to be considered for reappointment?
And a lot of people will reach out to you and
Okay.
express, you know, I still want to serve, or in writing, they'll say, unfortunately, I have other obligations, and
If you want me to send that out, I can send it out to anybody
yeah,
whose term expires, okay? Oh, and certain, we can do that for professional service contractors as well, because that's usually happens at the organization
Yep.
as well.
sure,
Can
yeah,
a
yeah,
date for the reorg yet?
That, we haven't set a meeting schedule for next year yet.
that'll be up to you. You can work with
Usually
it.
it has to be within a certain amount of days.
7 days,
Certain
yeah.
days, yeah. Usually after the election, although this year we didn't really get any certified results yet, but we'll keep putting reorganization on future agendas, and then we'll invite the elects.
This here, everybody gets a chance, because some of them are council, mayor, with council consent, mayor, give it yourself, so. All right, anything else on the reorganization?
That was all
Okay, correspondence. We have correspondence from JCP&L, Reliability Plus Infrastructure Investments Program. And we have the ceremonial dedication naming a new turf field on November 17th at 10 a.m. at the Polo Grounds.
The first one had a resolution attached to it if the council wants to support that ACP&L
Okay.
program.
And also regarding the new turf field, Resolution 18-240 Galloway and Crane Funeral Services donated the plaque on the stone there, so we accepted that this evening. So everyone's invited to attend on November 17th at 10 a.m. at the Polo Grounds. All right, and Anthony, what do you want to do with JCP&L?
There was just a resolution there in support of JCP&L on their petition here.
Council members, how do you feel?
It's for approval of an infrastructure investment program called JCP&L Reliability Plus. So, we can, if you want to do it now, we can table it next time if you want, but it's just not there right now.
Yeah, why don't we do it next time, because
Well,
we have 3 members missing, so.
Yeah.
It looks like a good idea because they're saying they want to accelerate electric distribution infrastructure investment to meet expected future storm-related and blue sky challenges.
Yeah.
Doug, you want to?
Yeah, there's no additional cost to the borough. It's just,
Yeah.
I just thought the borough showing support for their initiative to try to make upgrades to the system. No additional cost.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's not, our borough does have its challenges with the electrical
Yep, oh, we sure do.
service. Yeah, so yesterday and today were both power outages, and there's a storm coming Thursday and Friday.
John's saying the same thing with the leaves. He's like, there's going to be no snow on the leaves this year.
We'll lose more air.
See, that's Chris Schmidt's fault. He's not here, but he mentioned that about a month ago. How's the salt looking?
Got plenty of salt.
Yeah.
Well, everybody knows the warming center's at the library.
You volunteers for staff?
And CERT team, library, not library. The CERT team and the shelter volunteers are 2 different things. So if you're interested in training, reach out to the chief or to me, and we'll coordinate some training in those instances.
Okay, council members, you want to do anything with the JCP&L this evening?
Yeah, we can, John, if you're moving it?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
It's just saying that we're supporting
All
the
right.
infrastructure.
All right,
And I
so
think that's
in
it.
support of JCP&L infrastructure, and Anthony,
You just have to give it a number.
all right,
Does that mean anything for us? They can make
18,
chopping branches
249.
down or just,
It doesn't say that specifically, it just says,
just supporting their infrastructure.
yeah, it's kind of a lay up, I guess.
Okay. So Mr. Donahue will move, supporting 18-249, supporting the JCP&L infrastructure. A second? Second by Mr. Sullivan. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? The ayes have it.
they're also, they put in this, and the notice is in the agenda package online that they're having like a public meeting about it, if anyone wants to go to that, but looks like it's right now, November 13th at 5:30. So, you can also send in comments and stuff to them, but all the information is on our website in the agenda.
Okay, we have a request from 6K, request from Randy Himmel for a video on the borough website. This gentleman has a drone, but it does promote his, like, advertising.
Yeah, it's got his
So,
website on there the whole time.
yeah.
So then,
Yeah.
maybe you could go on your website. He wants to do, you've probably seen it on Facebook, it's like a drone, right? The drone?
Right. Flies
We
over.
have it.
Yeah, they have their own.
He can reach out,
Okay.
I'll look at it and see if there's something we can do.
I'll give him your email to reach out to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So council's in favor, not in favor, not in favor?
Not in
In
favor.
favor, not in
It's
favor,
advertising.
exactly. Michael?
Same.
Not in favor. Christine?
It's cool, but
Not in favor, all right. Anthony? Not in favor. Okay, 6K, holidays, annual event,
this is the wreaths on the roof.
and everything, yeah, and everything else to go with it, you know, tree lighting, etc. Displays at the pond.
We have to vote or?
Oh, yeah, all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, the ayes have it.
And I'll get insurance and hold harmless agreement.
Sure. Yeah,
they're,
yeah, it's like running a mill every year. All right, so in closed session, we're gonna discuss, contract negotiation, any pending litigation. Council member to move the adjourn in closed session.
I'll move.
I'll second.
All right, moved by Mr. Donahue, second by Mr. Solomon, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstained? The ayes have it. All right, good deal.